Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Welcome to my channel and my video again. I would like to thank YouTube for creating for such innovation to have a platform like YouTube right now, which is amazing for us to have education online at our own sweet time. And before I go on, I would like to thank all my subscribers. I'm honored with your presence, and I hope all the videos that I have posted in this amazing YouTube channel will be benefiting you, and also share it with your colleagues, associates, vendors, suppliers, contractors, so that they can benefit from this knowledge. And as I said earlier, I don't reserve any copyright of this work, so you could use this video freely, anywhere, anytime. Make sure it benefit the people, the audience. You can do your own training. Even though you're a trainer, you can insert this video to help out in your explanation, to add on to what you have. All right, and perhaps you would be able to do better than I do. Okay, that would be my ultimate aim. And before we go on into this particular topic, which is failure of our control, air pollution control equipment, and in emergency, what the law has got to say. Now, before we go on, excuse me, alhamdulillah. If you are now in the mosque attending Friday prayers, and the khatib is already reciting the khutbah, please stop this video, follow the khatib, and also please refrain from watching my video when you are attending preachers by scholars, ulama, ustads, and all these people. Learn from them. That is much more a higher level of to me, education, as compared to what I'm sharing with you now. And also, if you're busy with your work, all right, you've got work to do in the office, or you're driving or flying an F-16, etc., please do not watch this video. Right, let us move on into what I'm going to share with you today. This is actually a serious matter, and let's talk about the law first, okay? And we'll talk about the rest of what I'm going to tell you later. Now, the law is stipulating that in the case of the failure of our air pollution control equipment, in this case, because we're still in the middle of Clean Air Regulations 2014, and we are still haven't completed the Environmental Quality Act 1974. So as you know, Clean Air Regulations 2014 is one of the various multiple subsidiary regulations under the Act. Now, failure of our control equipment. What happened? The worst case that has happened in as far as air pollution control equipment, as far as my knowledge is concerned, there are 3 cases which is reported in journals and non-reported in journals all over the world. I think it's more than 5 that came to my desk or to my knowledge. It involves an equipment called electrostatic precipitator. In one case, I think you know ESP, right? It is using a wrapper. And that wrapper is supposed to be insulated. And as you know, electrostatic precipitator is high voltage. And some of the dust that enters the ESP that gets stuck at the corona discharge at the walls of the ESP, they are charged. And some of these particles are having low flash point. And in that incident, it involves such particles, and the wrapper insulating material has cracked. And one of the tap was actually exposing the wrapper metal part and tapped the metal surface of the walls of the ESP. That causes spark, and you know the rest. Okay, that is the worst case scenario that I have seen. And then one other incident involves, I think it was the dust collector, the SOX type system, caught fire because it doesn't catch fire by itself. It was a kind of splinter that comes out from a kind of burner whereby it burns some solid fuel in a form of wood dust. It flew off, glowing, and landed on that dust collector, and it caught fire. That is another incident. Well, never mind that. We'll talk about some of the incidents later. Now, as far as this regulation is concerned, Regulation 20 of Clean Air Regulation 2014, apparently these people is involved. The owner of the factory, the owner of the premise and activity, the public, and also the DOE, right? And these are people that place action in this matter. Now, it could be a complaint from the public, all right? It could be a repeated complaint from the public. And when that happened, the DOE would initiate investigation, and they will come and investigate. And in their investigation, or in their what they call visit, inspection, investigative inspection, if they find that there is a failure in the operation, overall operation, which could be the entire plant. For example, the plant trip. And when the plant trip, it has caused some potential hazard, okay? And that could be amounting to some form of risk in the form of perhaps fire, risk in the form of perhaps explosion, etc. I think if you are a safety health officer, HSC managers, you are well trained and you know what I'm saying. Okay, I think your knowledge in health safety is far better than what I know. All right, so I believe you understand what I'm saying. And it could be machines that broke down. It could be a petrochemical plant. Okay, it could be some form of equipment. All right. It could be some form of equipment whereby it is due to maintenance work, and maybe involving certain tank which is used to store highly flammable product, gases, liquid. You don't know. All right, it happened. And maybe that particular equipment is under maintenance, under shutdown. Maintenance contractor comes and clean up, and things happen. Okay, or it involves any control equipment with regards to air pollution or any other control equipment used for the process. Okay, failure of the plants, failure of the machine, failure of the equipment, or failure of any control equipment. It's already a huge potential probability. In a plant, the entire system of a plant, you know better than I do, raw mat flow, material flow are all connected either by pipes, and on top of that, the types of materials that we are using. Is it liquid? Is it solid? Is it gas form? Is it flammable? We're talking about its flash point, all right? And we're talking about process temperature, process pressure. When I talk about pressure, I can't imagine a pressure vessel, although it may have some pressure relief valves, okay? But accidents do happen. And most of the accident, SHO experts, please correct me if I'm wrong. I learn from health safety people as well. Accidents happen for the record, of which was, I'm honored to be able to look at those reports, were really the bulk of it human error, unfortunately. And those human involved in committing those errors were certified. They were considered experts. They are experts in those work, and still error happen. Ironic, isn't it? So, but anyway, this is life, and that's what that is reality. What I should say, okay. And there are some other reports saying that the error was due to looping. We loop processes. We skip certain process, and that amounted to accident. Excuse me. Now, in those conditions, when there is plant or machine or equipment breakdown or any failure of any air pollution control equipment or perhaps any other control equipment, whereby in this case, for these clean air regulations, air impurities, air impurities are being released and discharged. It could be in the form of dust, gas, or perhaps smoke, or even some flying ashes and debris of combustion, or any other gases. Well, when we talk about gas, you know by now that it's not just gas, not just gas as the term implies, but gas can be many things. It can be, as you already know by now, hazardous gases like volatile organic compounds. It has been discussed earlier, right? And these gases, most of it has got no color and even no smell. It goes undetected. Well, in the form of fire, you could see fire, you could see black smoke, like the picture that I have in the backdrop. It's a fire, it's a huge fire many years ago, and it happened. If you know the company name, please be quiet, all right? And it is huge. It is big. We'll talk about that later. Now, in that kind of incident, which causes, look, the law says accumulation of air pollutant, whereby that would be a risk to public health, safety, or even welfare. The law mentioned the word welfare. This is rather ironic. Why ironic? I'll tell you later. Excuse me. Coffee, anyone? Mm. The volatile organics from my coffee smells good. VOC, huh? Now, or it would causes the accumulation of air pollutant and affect the quality of environment within the vicinity or the region or the area. Now, when this is a potential environmental hazard, when this is a potential environmental hazard and the risk is environmental pollution, permanent, irreversible pollution, or long-term environmental pollution, then when there is such potential, now the law says our company has got to be prepared with some form of emergency response plan. I have preached environmental ERP before. In fact, that was one of my first topic when I first started doing my own training way back in the year 2000 or 1999. Yeah, 1999. Yeah. So we got to submit an ERP. In order to have an ERP, we need to have a risk assessment first on safety, health safety risk assessment coupled with environmental risk assessment. Then you have a complete ERP. Otherwise, it's going to be just environment whereby it would only be downstream like firefighting. So you need to have health safety ERP. Health safety ERP is in fact governing all sorts of risk, potential hazard, all right, from workplace. Okay, so we have got to draw, if we know in our factory, in our operation, there is or there are several areas of potential hazard, especially when it involves environmental hazard and can cause some form of environmental risk, then start to look at your existing health safety ERP and improve it. Insert environmental potential hazard. Got it? So that will be good. And in this one, it would be safe if you already have a health safety ERP, emergency response plan covering everything. Because when you talk about health safety, it's huge. It is confined within the premise, within the vicinity, within the production area, within the factory, where that would be the source of potential hazard. Good. All right. Now, when we narrow down the scope into like scrubber, if the scrubber is scrubbing acid or acidic gas or acidic fumes from the factory operation, then the potential hazard is, as you know, the scrubber like connectors broken, the scrubber valves or the scrubber valves choke or the scrubber valve broken, or the nozzle choke, or the scrubber pump leaks or ruptured in a way that releases all the acidic gas, acidic fumes, instead of getting into the scrubber and being scrubbed, it is instead being released into the atmosphere. That is an environmental ERP that calls for a concise environmental ERP, because that air pollution control equipment broke down. And this sort of example that I gave involving scrubber or dust collector, whereby dust collector, filter, cartridge breaks and dust is emitted out in large amounts, or dust collector socks broken and releases dust from the stack of those dust collector in large amount, conspicuous and even colored. Normally, this sort of potential environmental hazard is not covered in your conventional health safety ERP. Therefore, I would suggest that since you already have a health safety ERP, don't waste time making a new one. What we should do is to include environmental hazards, potential hazards in your existing ERP. After all, that environmental hazard is going to cause health safety impact. Okay, It is environmental potential hazard. It is also health safety potential hazard. Got it? So it's a link, right? Now, I hope that is understandable, simple enough, an explanation. I don't have to draw anything on the whiteboard. I don't have access to any whiteboard anyway. Now, with that in mind, with that ready, ERP. So you got to do a safety audit, all right? Remember, I talked about risk assessment earlier. You got to do a concise risk assessment, this time involving environmental sources of potential hazard. Couple it with your existing ERP. Get it within your existing ERP, covering environmental ERP. Got it? Don't have to make a separate one. If you ask me, I will do that way because you already have ERP. Why waste time doing another one? Just insert. All you got to do is rerun your risk assessment. And then with that in mind, there is possibility that we have to install public warning or alert system. Maybe you got to add on sensors that can detect if your dust collector is broken or your ESP is kaput or perhaps the voltage in ERP shot up. Then you can have an alert system, all right? Or the pressure in your scrubber build up. What's the meaning? I think you know when if the pressure in the scrubber built up or if the pressure in your filter bag built up. I think you know what's the reason. Soon after that, something will go kaput because the operational pressure of this system has a range. When it shot up more than the range, then it is actually inviting some form of potential hazard. Got it? I hope this is understandable. All right. And normally I would merge the health safety ERP with the environmental ERP because it's involving the same people, the same on-scene commander, the same ERT members. Okay. So why have a separate one? All right. We can merge. Now, the next thing is to stock up ERP related equipments and chemicals as usual. Relief tank, if any. Of course, you need to have firefighting equipment if it catch fire. So you need to have firefighting solution or media that would be suitable to, let's say, to put off fire from your dust collector, which is collecting certain types of dust, which is like uh, flammable or uh, dust of metal drosses or dust of what you name it. So these sorts of ERP related equipment will have got to tailor to different types of air pollution control equipment. And it's not just the conventional spill kit. Of course, when you talk about ERP, PPE is already done. We don't have to discuss that here. That is done, established, and ready for use at any time. I'm talking about advancing from that into accommodating environmental hazard. All right, and chemicals like you may have foam. I think NIOSH has got a good keep of all these sorts of potential hazards involving factories, involving certain chemicals, because they have a good inventory. And I think a dust into your dust collector has got to do with the raw mat. So then again, SDS, got it? And also your analysis of the so-called dust collected in your sawdust or in your filter bag, or the gas that gets into your scrubber. You by now should already have the compositional analysis, the character of those air impurities, as I've mentioned earlier. Got it? So information is important. You need to have all this data before you decide what type of so-called firefighting liquid, fluid, media, how to contain them, how hazardous are they. That will be your, I think, expertise. And we need to have all these chemicals, adsorbent, some form of, some companies has got bought some reagents as indicating chemicals. It's not hazardous, but that reagent changes color and the appearance of certain substances, which is a good indicator. Just like mercaptan in a cooking gas, all right? So you work about a similar principle. Now, ERP related equipments, relief pump, tanks, skimmers, okay, etc. Maybe you need to install some form of, well, for effluent, I'm quite used to sluice gates, but for air pollution, is another question. All right, you got to understand your operation. All right, you got to understand past incident records that you have. Excuse me. The coffee VOC is nice, right? Now, and we've got to comply to any related DOE directive that might come to place. So this is about Regulation 20, failure of control equipment and emergency. This law is asking us to be prepared in case of failure of our control equipment and emergency. Now, well, this country, on one hand, we have experts, especially safety health officers, industrial hygienists, HSC managers who have been working for 20, 25, 30 years, exposed to all sorts of incidents and accidents. Some are consultants, some are trainers like me. These are respectable people with lots of experience, and I love to learn from them. Now, despite that, I would say most personnel working for reputable company, and many companies in this country are reputable companies. They are well trained because NIOSH has got CEPs as much as DOE now has got CPDs. Apart from attending those training for the points, but when they were doing their competency, they have been trained. What I'm trying to say is this. Once upon a time, not many years ago, I was watching TV just after lunch. I normally have my lunch about 4 to 5 p.m. Right? I don't take that lunch at noon. I have a light breakfast and my lunch is about 4 to 5 p.m. I was watching TV and suddenly, well, it was TV3, okay? I hope you don't mind I mentioned which channel. This is about 5, 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. After 2008, as I remember. Suddenly, the reporter, well, TV3 reporter on site, they, as you know, lovely, beautiful ladies, journalists, was reporting and saying that a premise which the whole Malaysia knew about, quality alarm, was on fire. And her backdrop is actually quality alarm on fire. TV3 News, 4 p.m., if I'm not mistaken. It was in the afternoon. And I said, what is this? And when I look at the reporter, she is I believe, not more than 500 meters away from the huge fire, and she reacted as if she could feel either feel the heat or she could hear something explode, some explosions, small explosion, fire explosions as usual. What I did is I immediately emailed tv3news.com. I think news at tv3.com, if I'm not mistaken. And I wrote in my email, I remember telling that your lady reporter is now exposed to some toxic and hazardous matters in the air of unknown types. Please get her out of the site now. It is too dangerous. Thank you. I didn't write my name, no contact number, no nothing, email. And you know what? 8 p.m. news, I think it was what? The popular bulletin TV3, something like that. The news doesn't appear at all. Now, that was the first incident. And I'm asking you a question now. If you are in Port Dickson, I think you understand what I'm saying. The fire is huge. The smoke is enormous. The plume of smoke is seen miles away. Luckily, that reporter wasn't directly downstream of the smoke. That worries me a lot. My question is, why weren't those residents who are residing downstream, downwind, exactly what I'm trying to say, is being immediately evacuated? They are inhaling. You know by now from my past video, VOC, dioxin, furan, halogenated VOC, non-halogenated NM, VOC, heavy metals, name it. Environmentalists, if you're hearing me now, you know what I'm talking about. Competent persons from EMAS, SHO people, my dear friends, you know what I'm talking about. Why are there no evacuation? Do you see in this law any kind of provision that we must evacuate the people around us? What we have here is only this. And then what? Think about it. And then what? Have you heard of other fire? Have you heard of... I'm sorry if I offended anyone, but I'm talking this in terms of knowledge and in terms of reality. What we have is a bunch of Malaysian, highly qualified, highly trained, but I think on the other hand, they cannot execute the expertise. They know about the importance of evacuation. For example, the mercaptan smell. Remember Pasigodang earlier this year or last year? Late last year, I guess, September. Why weren't those people evacuated until some is already displaying symptoms of neurotoxicity? The nerve system is affected. And some of these cases, like the backdrop of this picture, are traveling plumes kilometers away, many miles and kilometers away, depending on the effects of meteorological factors. You know that better than I do, especially meteorologists, experts. Please help out, comment. Now, so we have on one hand experts, on the other hand decision makers, administrators. Why is there a hiatus between the incident and the response? Everybody studied ERP. It is about shortening the time of incident and the time of response, then we can save life. If it is too long, prolonged, there's a lot of risk. The risk is higher, despite the fact that the hazard is just one hazard, but we amplify the risk because we take too long a time to decide what to do. On scene, Commander, you are senior in this, you know what I'm saying. All right, especially people in the uniform, they're trained in emergency, they know all this. And you, SHO people, health, safety, environment, security, you know what I'm saying. Now, why is the late response? And eventually in Sungai Kim Kim, nobody is evacuated. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because why? The river belongs to the state, the law belongs to federal, but I have high regards on hazmat. My gratitude, my salute to you people who are in hazmat, what they call pertahanan awam, bomba, yes, not forgetting bomba, and all other officials, other authorities who came, especially DOSH, DOE, who came to the sites and start investigation. These people did fabulous job. But my concern is they don't make decisions what to do next. It's always a protocol, it's always a hierarchy rather. Now, how can we improve the system so that experts can give advice like evacuation where, at what radius, and relief centers must have some remediation, medicine, ailment, what to administer. These are all available because there are people who are trained in this. But now when we talk about evacuation is not done, people are inhaling, you don't see it in the air apparently looks clear, but it is in the air. Dioxin don't have colors, furans don't have colors, hydrocarbon compounds don't have colors. Got it? It's not expressing my grievances, but I hope this video is being viewed by people who are able to improve the system, especially if you're in health, safety, environment. I think you know what I'm talking about. So that's the best I could do as an old man. But I want younger people to grab what I've just said just now. That is a loophole. That is a gap in our system response. Got it? I hope this law is clear enough for you. I thank you for your time. Please excuse me, maafkan saya kalau terkasar bahasa atau terkena siapa-siapa. It's not what not my intention, but I have to talk about ilmu, about knowledge. I have to talk about it. So saya dah lepaskan fardu kifayah saya ni. I talk about it. So I hope somebody would improve the system. Thank you for your time, and thank you for those who just subscribed this channel and support me in this work. Please support yourself, support all other friends whom you know need the information and knowledge, especially students in universities, lecturers. Please benefit from what is not found in textbook. Okay, so thank you very much. Saya sudahi dengan mendoakan semua, semoga Allah Subhanahu wa taala kurniakan keberkatan, keselamatan, kesejahteraan dan kebahagiaan di dunia dan di akhirat for fellow Muslims and for the rest. Thank you very much. I wish everybody Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye. See you in the next video.